Hello everyone, how are you? Can you hear me okay? How's your weekend been? How's it going, Snuffle? Hope you're well. Let me know if the background music's a bit too loud, guys. I'm always constantly tweaking that, as you know, on these Just Chatting streams. Dead silence isn't fun, but also don't want you to be deafened either, so let me know if the bounce is okay. Hiya Amy, how's it going? Sorry I'm a bit late, guys. Hiya Artemis. Oh wow, everyone's turning up. I was doing my usual Sunday night thing of contemplating, is anyone around, is it worth me doing? I'm absolutely shattered after this weekend. But yeah, so great to see so many of you already jumping in chat. I hope you're well. How are you feeling, Artemis? It's been a while since we caught up with everything you've had going on. So yeah, I'm here. I'm freshly trimmed, so less facial hair going on. I feel half the man without my beard. But I thought I'd better scrub up a little bit for my talk yesterday. How's it going, Snuffle? How's your week been? I don't think we spoke probably since Tuesday. So yeah, fairly low-key one tonight, guys. Just chat and one, no guests or anything. I did have a couple of offers for guests, which again is amazing. It says a lot for where we're going with this. But I thought after the whole weekend away, my first time being out in the world with a group of people and everything, I kind of knew I was going to be a bit knackered tonight. So I'm glad I didn't commit to anything, because I think I'd have struggled, to be honest. Snuffle, I've existed this past week. I'm proud to go to the woods. I love that we're your sort of like weekly cue to go for a wander. Whatever makes the stream more tolerable for you, Snuffle, you do what you've got to do. Glad to hear you're doing a bit better, Artemis. I've been thinking of you. Yeah, I'm still rough though. I know these things don't get fixed overnight. That's like when people ask how you are and you tell them and then they say get better soon, and without understanding that might not actually be an option. But yeah, I hope things are a bit more comfortable for you. Is the background music alright, guys? Is that not too loud for you? Just want to check, because normally I spend half an hour prepping streams. I literally jumped on here about 10 minutes ago. So I haven't done my usual stream checks normally that I would go through. I realised, I said to my wife, I better do my stream, and then realised I still had a packed suitcase in the room and all sorts of stuff spilling over from the weekend, so I hadn't done any tidying up, so I had to quickly go through that. So my technical checks have been somewhat neglected. Clearly the Twitch viewer count is having a wobble today, because I can see that there's 4 or 5 of you talking to me in chat, and it's I've only got 2 people watching, so let's just ignore that. Don't know what that's about. That might just be my end though. Oh yeah, I can see actually now you guys are getting a totally different number to what I'm getting on the back end, so ignore me. So how's everyone else's weekend been? If you're in the UK, how are your joints been with the whole 34 degrees one day, 22 the next? Good old, only in the UK could you get a 12-14 degree difference. And then people wonder why our conditions struggle with it. By the way, guys, I haven't had a chance to promote this properly either, just because of me being away and only getting back late last night, so I haven't put anything on Instagram or anyone. So if you've got anyone who normally joins you on the stream, give them a nudge, let them know I'm live, just in case they haven't hit that follow button to get the notification that we're live. Hi Lou, how's it going, mate? I hope you're well. I hope you're well. Hey, wife can go to hell. I must admit, I love it, but I love it for, I have like a love-hate relationship with it. So like, it's really good for giving my psoriasis a blast, but then the aftercare I have to do afterwards to make sure it's safe and everything. Yeah, is a challenge. Lots of moisturisers afterwards. Hiya Energy, first time chatter, thank you for getting involved. Everyone say hello to Energy, guys. What brings you here? Be interested to know how you found us. Because yeah, we're still quite a young channel on Twitch, so yeah, it's always good to know how people came across us. Snuffle, burn the heat. I'm aware that doesn't make much sense, but it gets the point across. Yeah, that is it, Lou. I think that is the problem. If it was consistent and we could work with it, couldn't we? But at the minute, who knows? Well, it's like today. I was cold. I was hot in my garden this morning in the sun, and then this afternoon I was bloody freezing. So there's no logic to any of it. I hope the audio is still sounding crispy, by the way, guys. Got a new mic and everything now, so hopefully that is coming across. And you also shouldn't hear my drumming on the desk, which I do all the while. It's like this weird habit since high school. I used to drum constantly on the desk, and that was never good when you had a desk mic. So hopefully that's eradicated that at home as well. I'm a little bit behind putting up videos on the YouTube channel, the archive, if you like, of previous streams, obviously because I had a lot on this week. So we're a little bit behind on it. They're all there in the background. I just haven't made them live. So yeah, that's we're a little bit behind. Energy, looking for a mental health stream. Then I saw your stream talk about chronic pain and became interested. Till recently, just mess up right wrist. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But also absolutely chuffed that we're finally getting found on those lines. So long story short, Energy, we only started streaming to raise awareness of chronic illness, arthritis, mental health, chronic pain since the start of the year. We got to affiliate really quickly, and then Twitch seemed to sort of cripple us a little bit and not show us to anyone anymore. I have heard other streamers report similar in that they try to incentivize you initially to get onto the sort of affiliate program, and then it goes a bit dead. So it's awesome that somewhere out there the algorithm has brought a new person here. So thank you for dropping by. So essentially, just for anyone else that's new here, because we've got lots of people in the channel tonight, we stream on a Tuesday night, we stream an Animal Crossing stream, which is in conjunction with IFBA, the International Psoriasis sort of organisation. And that is to raise awareness of psoriatic disease and chronic illness, and that's just a bit of fun, trying to get people together in chat. A lot of the lovely people you see here in chat sort of pop along to that, whether they're impacted by psoriasis or not. And then on the Sunday night, tonight tends to be our more popular stream, where we get guests on. It goes on to be recordings for future podcast episodes. Tonight is quite a lo-fi one because I've been at a conference this weekend, so no guest or anything. It's just me talking to you guys, but that's always nice to do every sort of couple of weeks. And then we also do normally one extra stream during the week, but that tends to be fluid depending on my health and when I can fit it in. So if you hit the follow button, you'll get a notification about when that is. It's normally on a Wednesday or a Thursday night, and if not, drop into Discord as well, where this lovely group of people you see here in chat also get the news first, I suppose, the best way to say it, on what's happening with the channel. Amy, you won't be chatting as much as I've worked. Yeah, I know you're always busy, Amy, you never stop, so like always, just appreciate you lurking around. Thank you. Lou, does anyone else get looked at if they require help when they explain effects will come up? Yeah, I just constantly repeat that. Like, the thing is, I must admit, Lou, I've been on two sides of that that argument. When I was younger, I wouldn't hear it. Like, literally, you know me, I tell it like it is, and if I made mistakes in the past, I happily own them. And as a kid, a teenager with arthritis, I just wouldn't have it. That I had lots of old, and I think it was because it was old people telling me it, that I used to get so fed up with the whole arthritis as an old person's disease thing, I wouldn't buy it. But as I've got older, I definitely notice pressure changes, just in even if it's just the minor stuff like how much your achy joint is throbbing. Obviously, if the pressure's increased, then that's more chance of that being a problem. Oh, sorry, Amy, before you head off, I missed your question earlier about the conference. Yeah, it did. I'll be talking about that in depth in a bit. But yeah, it went really well. And you know me, if I'm saying it went well, then it obviously did, because I'm normally beating myself up for one reason or another. Where are you at, and Energy, with your help for your chronic pain? Like, is this a recent injury? Have you got as far as primary care? Because I've got lots of I can give you lots of help regarding pathways, but it all depends on how far you are along in that journey. And also, just to note, as you are a new viewer, none of us here are medically trained, and we don't claim to be, with the exception of some of our OTs and that lurking in the crowd. But I myself am not medically trained in any way, shape or form, so everything I talk about here is personal experience, awareness raising, and also just a signpost, and to build a community of people that can support one another with these things. So any advice I give, just please do know that I'm not medically trained in any way, shape or form. And yeah, chronic pain not going away, I think, is the biggest psychological hurdle. It was a big part of my talk that I did yesterday at the conference, in that, you know, that it's one thing being in pain, that's another thing being told you've got to accept it. But unfortunately, that is part of the journey. You know, my living with pain got a lot easier for me once I accepted that there was no magic bullet and there was no fixing it. It's not what you want to hear, I know, trust me. And you want to blame someone and get angry at something, but once you start thinking in their mindset of that, okay, I've got to work with this, and if I get a break from it one day, brilliant, then things get a lot more manageable. Alright, so guys, if you're new here, don't forget to hit the follow button. It helps the channel massively. It also tells Twitch what we're doing here is valued to someone, and hopefully helps more people like Energy find us. So yeah, please do hit the follow button if it's your first time here. Yeah, so if that's now starting to be a problem, and you get to your primary healthcare provider, because basically nothing happens with chronic pain for it's like turning the Titanic. you start to make changes or steps now, then it's going to be a while off before you start to see any outcomes from that. So but if you're in Florida, I don't know exactly how that works there, but I know here in the UK, chronic pain is like take these tablets, but actually living with it takes some time to get to grips with. Right guys, so yeah, I'll talk, feel free to talk amongst yourself in chat, because ultimately that's what we are here for. And Snuffle, I don't know if you're still with us or if you've lost signal in the woods. If you can just give me a thumbs up or something in chat to let us know if you're still here and listening. But basically, same for there was a couple of you got in touch with me over. Good man. There was a couple of you got in touch with me over Discord about volunteering to be mods. I think we need to start getting that in play now, because with what's happening with the chronic pain stuff, the chronic pain club on a Sunday. Obviously, even when I haven't got a guest, I want to encourage what's going on now in chat with you guys just sort of supporting each other. But I can't host a channel and interview a guest and keep an eye on everything that's going on backwards and forwards. So so any of you that kindly, Snuffle included, sort of put a hand up and said you'd be interested in modding the channel, I think we're probably at that stage now. So at some point in the week, if we could have just a really quick chat, so for me to go through sort of how I'd like to see it play out, and then we'll, if you're still interested, that is, get that implemented. Because like I said before on the channel, I think during the Animal Crossing streams, I can just say X, Y, and Z, can you give them a timeout, whatever. But when we're doing the just chat and stuff, I'm not going to be able to keep up with chat, so I'm going to need to rely on somebody else sort of implementing the rules for the channel for me. So if anyone else is interested in that, drop me a DM. No need to say it in chat. I don't want anyone to commit to anything or feel like they've been put on the spot. But if that's something, yeah, get in touch with me on the Discord server. The link is there in the chat. And then that means I can just rattle off all this stuff and interview guests and not have to constantly keep being distracted by trying to read, you know, what people are doing if they're just having a conversation between themselves and not including me, which is kind of what we want to do here. It's exactly why we brought our ideas over to Twitch, to try and create a format where people could live chat and support each other. But I do feel like, given the size of the channel now, I'm probably setting myself up for a fall if I don't get mods in place. So yeah, anyone who's got familiarity with Twitch and some of the behind the scenes, tools to mod and everything, then please let me know and we'll get that in play. But thank you for everyone that's offered to help the channel so far. We couldn't do any of this without you guys. So yeah, Psoriasis Association conference yesterday. For anyone who new here won't know what I'm on about, but for the regulars sort of benefit. So yesterday was the first in-person Psoriasis Association conference, I think in 3 years. And they kindly done it as a sort of a format where you could be in the room or join from home, which was awesome. So there was about 60 people, I think, in person, and then about 100 on Zoom, which I think is a good turnout. You know, I think you could say, well, people used to get more than that of these sort of things before the pandemic. I think so much is going on at the moment, and people's priorities are elsewhere in the world, and cost of living and that sort of thing, that sometimes I think it's going to take a little while for these things to get back up again. But yeah, it was really good experience. Lots of takeaways, which hopefully I'll cover a few from what I remember. I must admit it was a bit of a blur. I was trying to take notes frantically. And also just to tell you a little bit about what I spoke about and how that went. I really should have got my speech to hand. Hang on. I told you I only got back late last night, so I'm not very organised. If you're new here, this is normally a slicker operation, and don't tell them the truth, chat, but it really isn't. But yeah, so essentially, I think what my first takeaway is, for most of us that have gone to these things, I've got a feeling maybe Artemis has probably attended some in the past, these sort of things. I might be wrong. You can feel like a bit of a third wheel, spare part as a patient or patient advocate. Firstly, it was by far the most inclusive, welcoming thing I've been to date. It was fantastic, and everybody that was involved in setting that up. So I'm just going to take my gain down on my mic a little bit because we're peaking. Sorry guys, just in case I'm giving anyone a headache. So yeah, it was just the people who organised it sort of went out their way clearly to do it that way, so it didn't just feel like a room of doctors. There was loads of patient representatives, there was loads of members, there was loads of just average people that were just there with no agenda, just because they got an interest in it or they suffer with psoriasis. And you know, you still had your farmers and your medical community and everything else, quite rightly, but it just felt it was by far the most inclusive group I think I'd gone to, which was really refreshing. And then I think to make things even better, all the speakers were sort of tackling the same, like none of us speakers had spoken to each other. We'd only been given very light guidance on what to talk about, which again I really liked. It just left me a blank canvas to do my thing. But it was so refreshing to see doctors and professors and people in the healthcare industry all talking about the importance of the patient and the power of the patient, and how we've got to make it easier, and how we're not you know, achieving what we should be achieving, especially in the UK. I can't comment for our international viewers, I can't comment what's going on elsewhere. Obviously this was very much focused on the here and now, but it's just it was so refreshing. I said there, Artemis. And like, not being funny, that was my biggest fear about my talk, because I thought to myself, if people aren't willing, you know, for those of us that have been doing this a couple of years, will know what it was like a couple of years ago, where you just didn't have a seat at the table, you just didn't have the conversation, you know, whatever. And the fact that the people that went before me, like medical professionals, were basically hitting on the same themes that I was then going to go on to talk about, just made it's just music to your ears. And like the first talk from Dr. Julia Schofield, who I think is actually, she's a member of the Psoriasis Association. Bear with me, I'm referring to my notes here because I can't keep up. Yeah, she's a vice chair. Her talk was basically all about you know, patient initiated appointments, patient pathways, what they're doing in her neck of the woods to sort of allow people to get back into the system, and also that picture isn't complete yet, but it was so refreshing to hear somebody on the other side of the table saying it's unacceptable at the moment, and that the fact that somebody with a new rash can get seen within 2 weeks, but somebody who's had psoriasis for decades can't get back in the door after a year of waiting. And she absolutely hit the nail on the head, and that just set the tone for the whole day. I was like, okay, this is going to be so much more refreshing than what we normally have. So yeah, it was awesome. I actually did use that exact term, Artemis, as well. There shouldn't be a tick box exercise, that we shouldn't be brought in at the end when everything's already been decided. I could read a bit of it if you wanted, guys. Like, it's, the Psoriasis Association are going to be putting videos up on YouTube, but I'm happy to talk through a few bits. But or I can tell you about the other talks. That's totally up to you guys. What do you want to hear? And just so you know, guys, this isn't going to be like a 3-hour stream tonight, just because, like I say, it's been a long weekend. So this just a sort of like hour and a half, 2-hour check-in with you guys, have a bit of a catch-up, have a bit of a sort of chronic illness social, and then we'll get the guests and everything lined up for next week. Everyone liking the happy electro dance music in the background. Yeah, as long as you don't mind, Lou, I don't want to bore anyone. That's just an idea, rather than me keep saying, oh, I said a bit about that and I said a bit about this. I can go through some of it. What I'll do, what if I, because basically the first bit I talked about my story, you guys all know about all of that. You don't need to hear that again. You heard enough of that, and basically how the whole biologic biosimilar switch and everything else that did, and how I found my voice, and I found there was loads of people just like you guys, and there needed to be more to be done to talk about the real life with chronic illness and not this filtered bullshit you can see online sometimes. And I managed to get my, people talking about their best life. I bore myself, I think, sometimes. That's, you know what I'm like with my imposter syndrome. I'm probably more worried about it than you guys are. But the main bits were like the barriers between patients and patients getting progress, and the power of lived experience. So I can read through some of that if you guys want. I'll have to turn this music down a little bit in my ears though. But the other bit I was trying to make the point to them as everything as well was that, like, patients can fill these gaps. I think because for a long while people have felt like it had to be exclusively like a medical thing. So one of the things I'm being trained up for and going through all the checks and everything at the minute is in, you guys, you regulars will know how much I've talked about pain management and what a saviour it's been for me and everything. But what they're doing in pain management, they're now starting to put the patient, or they're called experts by experience, EBEs. So what they originally started doing, they'd done a study and they put someone in who'd drop into one of the group sessions just to give a little 10-minute talk about their experience doing what these new patients were doing that day. But they've now realised how powerful it is, and they're literally adding experts by experience to every level. So group therapy, seminars, and eventually they want them sort of helping in one-to-one sessions. And where that's really valuable is, like, when I first went to pain management stuff, again, I don't gloss over how I originally felt, because I think it's important because other people will feel like I did. I just thought it was going to be a load of hippie crap and people sitting in a circle complaining about how much pain they were going to be in. I genuinely thought that's what it was going to be, or like a badge wearing competition where it was like, I've got more problems than you, and I just had no appetite for that at all. So what they're doing by introducing experts by experience into every stage of their service delivery is that I can essentially sit there and say to them, I've been where you are, I know how you feel, give the treatments a chance, and this is what it's done for me, and it could do the same for you. And it kind of sort of cements that link between patient and professional. So a lot of what I talked about yesterday was trying to explain to that sort of community that you don't need to be medically trained in order to improve service delivery. You know, you don't, obviously you're not going to be front line, but you can still influence it at every stage. But bringing us in at the end of a project or as part of like a tick box exercise just doesn't achieve nothing, because we can't change anything. It's been decided by somebody else, it's set in stone, and it doesn't matter what we say isn't necessarily going to change anything anyway. By the way, guys, it's awesome to see you talk to each other in chat. It's exactly what we were aiming to do here when we started 6 months ago. It's awesome. The other bit I sort of led on quite heavily yesterday, guys, is that how patient pathways are not clear. So for anyone that's been involved in focus groups and other bits, you'll probably already know this, but there's a big issue with patients either not engaging with their treatment, taking it reliably or whatever, but also not understanding what it does. And if patients don't understand what it does, then they're not going to engage as well with it. So I was talking about how there sort of almost needs to be like a patient pathway on a page, so that, you know, if you're a new psoriasis patient or a new arthritis patient or a new AS patient or whatever, you don't turn to online communities and see everyone preaching about biologics and just don't engage with topical creams and oral systemics and all those little gates you have to go through in order to get to them sort of, I don't know, stuff that's held up in such high regard online. So trying to make the point to sort of like people who deliver the services and pharmaceutical companies and everything, you need to educate new patients and support new patients to understand what you're giving them and why they need to give it so much time in order to go through the next gate to get X, Y, and Z. So, you know, so you go from maybe a steroid cream to I don't know, DMARD and then methotrexate, and then when that fails you go on to biologics, because I genuinely think there's a big issue out there with new patients not understanding what they are taking and why, and we clearly need to fix that. So I was trying to get that message across, I guess. But do you guys feel like well informed about what you're on and how it works and why it does, why you're given it and why you don't have other options? Or I'm probably preaching to choir a little bit in that I know obviously Amish are heavily involved and lose no mug on these things, but it's for more, I suppose, if there's any sort of newer diagnosed patients in the audience, do you feel like you have a handle on what you're on and why you don't get access to something else, or what it's aiming to do? Oh wow, that's a hell of an experience, Lou. That feels like one we need to get you on to talk about one day. I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, it's I think the problem is like, for me, there's like two patient types, right? There's patient A that's overwhelmed. They don't know what's going on. They don't reach out to online communities. And they probably don't ask questions and advocate for themselves at appointments, and they just feel a bit lost and cut off and isolated, and they're the ones I like really worry about. And then there's like another group that are going to be, you know, they're going to try and educate themselves. They're going to reach out to online groups and everything, and they're going to be more maybe vocal and involved and everything else. But also the issue that comes with that type of new patient is that they could see all of the people preaching about biologics and then just have no tolerance or patience for going through those steps, and not understanding that why would a doctor want to put stuff on like really potent, potentially toxic stuff if step 1, 2 or 3 work first. So yeah, that's the I think that's the issue we face, is how do you address those two sort of groups of people. My fee is quite a bit. You may need a corporate sponsor. I'm about two and a half grand in the red from just starting up streaming, Lou. So it might be a while before we get you on the show before I can afford to. I'm already starting to think about how I can try and convince an organisation to sponsor me to go to next year's ULA, because after seeing all of that this year, it just made me feel like I needed to be getting my gob in there to ruffle a few feathers and influence something. Yeah, it's just and a bit of my talk yesterday was about like online community and taking what you need from it and not getting overwhelmed or feeling like a failure because people are talking about thriving and showing their best life and filtering, you know, that I focused on that quite heavily because I generally do. I try to put myself in new patients' shoes. And as something I had conversations with other, I'm not going to name because it feels unfair when I haven't asked their permission, but people who are well known in the community on Instagram, and there aren't many of us now, but during the pandemic there was a big boom in them, and they had been newly diagnosed with AS of all things, so not exactly small fry, you know, serious implications to that, as the likes of Lou and others will know, and obviously they want to be proactive, they want to try and be involved in their health. You take to these online communities, and if all you've got is these people, you know, showing skydiving and mountain climbing, and you take me, you know, I wasn't bragging about it because I hid my arthritis back then, but when I was playing rugby now, imagine I do what I did now and I was showing all these pictures of me, you know, in malls and everything, and that just completely demoralises and switches off one of those patient types that are likely to go out and start reaching out and trying to get answers, and they don't understand the delay. And you know, and I have people drop into my DMs every single week saying, how do you get access to biologics, how do I get them, my doctor won't give them to me, and trying to explain to them, I was told about biologics when I was 14, I had to wait 10 years on methotrexate until it messed up my liver, then get an outbreak of psoriasis to confirm my juvenile arthritis subtype, and then finally, just before I was about 30, I got on them. So it took me like 10 to 15 years. So it's really hard one, because you're trying to not squash people's hopes, but you have to do it in a way that you educate them. Because if you just laughed it off and say, jog on son, join the queue, then they're just going to feel horrendous. But you also got to try and explain to them why you don't just jump from point 1 to point 8, you know, and that's not healthy to do that, because it's like you know, it's like you wouldn't amputate somebody's leg for a blister that you could fix with a plaster and a bit of cream. You know, I'll try and think of a better analogy, but you know what I mean. It's but people don't understand that. They just want to jump in and get the good stuff without understanding there are risks, and you know, for those of us that have got infections all the while and everything else, there are consequences to being on that stuff. But because there are certain very large accounts on social media promoting their best life on this stuff, people don't want to engage with the oral systemics or the topical creams. Sorry, I've missed a bit of chat here. Oh, Snuffle with their usual over confident outlook for me. No pressure or anything. Yeah, they are Lou, but the point I was making with that person, like when you're basically been told that your spine has started to fuse and there's some very real and I know from somebody that was misdiagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis as a teenager, the checks and the routine stuff I had to go through at 14, 15 for that was far more serious than anything I went through with my juvenile arthritis. And that kind of tells you, the long-term damage, doesn't it? When they're doing 6 monthly measurements and what's it called? Lung capacity checks and all that jazz. That might have changed, but when I was 15, 16, 17, I was having to go in every couple of months for all of those. And when it was for JIA, no. So that's kind of what I mean. It's like I can't even imagine what that's like. I love the positivity of my audience. I just wonder. I wish I could. I obviously dream, but I'm also a realist. And comorbidities, that came up yesterday, guys. Again, as something like the amount of people that have psoriasis or psoriatic disease. And obviously I'm going to talk a bit more about that side of autoimmune disease tonight, guys, just because I was at the conference yesterday. It's not because we're excluding other conditions. The amount of people living with that and have no idea about the high links to heart disease and fatty liver issues. You take me. I'm a 38. Am I 38? Am I 37? I'm 37. I'm 38 in August. I'm at that age now. We don't think about it too much. I'm 37 years of age, and I've already had fatty liver in my mid-20s, and I was told it was like the liver of an alcoholic, and I had to come off methotrexate, and I lost all this weight and started playing rugby and all this stuff. That's all obviously gone back up the wall again now with everything that's happened the last 2 years. But, I was in a bad way with my liver. And at the time, they kind of said, well, it could be the methotrexate, but there's more going on. We now know that was more than likely the psoriatic disease. But I didn't get diagnosed with that until a couple of years after that event. But no one talks about that when you get diagnosed. And it's the same with the heart disease. I've had high cholesterol for the last 10 years. Doesn't matter if I'm 10, 11 stone or like I am now. Christ, I don't even want to know. Maybe probably like 14 and a half. It doesn't matter how fit and healthy or overweight and immobile I am. I always have high cholesterol. And again, that is now a proven link with psoriatic disease. But you go back 10 years, my GPs couldn't work it out. I was like 11 stone, running 12-mile competitive running and done the Great North Run and all these sort of things. And I had like the same high cholesterol as like my dad had. And it didn't make sense. But we now know. But that stuff just isn't talked about. And I understand you don't want to overwhelm a new patient. I get that. Somebody comes through the door, you're already giving them bad news. The last thing they need to know is, oh, by the way, you could do... But it's like not telling people with JIA that they can get uveitis and quickly lose their eyesight. There comes a point where it's kind of I don't know. It's I'm lost for the word. What's the word where you? I can't think of the word, but where you're basically not doing your job by not telling them. You know what I mean? It might not be what they want to hear. So one of the things I was talking about is how, like, when I got diagnosed with psoriasis, I was given a piece of paper. What is psoriasis? A bit like what me and you have talked about, Lou, with a fact sheet or whatever. But it doesn't tell you what about triggers. It doesn't tell you what impact stress has. It doesn't tell you about how some of your medications make you more sensitive to sunlight, the comorbidities you might experience or you need to look out for. And I understand, like I say, you can't. There's an emotional limit to what loads you can put on someone when they've first been diagnosed. But if you're just sending them off to say, come back and see me in 6 months, and then that turns into come back and see me in a year, and then that comes, suddenly they're just getting yearly appointments. That conversation about the bigger impact just gets missed, like, completely. don't forget, guys, I have to do a bit of promo every now and then. I try to keep it to a minimum because, trust me, I don't like it as much as you don't like hearing it. If you have an Amazon Prime account, don't forget links there in chat that you can get 1 free subscription to the channel of your choice just by having an Amazon Prime account. And you can change it every month, so you can subscribe to this channel this month and you can subscribe to another stream you like next month. But just use it. It's free. Amazon bought out Twitch a few years ago. It's hardly ever advertised these days. It was advertised heavily when it first came out, but it's free, so use it and support somebody you enjoy, whose content you enjoy. The old chestnut pre-diagnosis. Have you thought about losing weight? Yeah, I know. And don't get me wrong, there is some science to that. There is a calculation, isn't there? For every extra kilogram of weight you're carrying, it's so many times pressure on your joints, and I get that, you know, that's how gravity works. But I think dismissing other things going on, it's like if I walked into a doctor's covered in psoriasis rashes, and there's clearly psoriasis or eczema, telling me to cut out some stress in my life and drink less alcohol before you then refer me to a dermatologist. It's just a nonsense. You know, refer me to a dermatologist and give me that life advice. But the ones, like you say, Lou, that say, you know, lose weight or whatever and come back, that just pisses me off, because it's not progressing the diagnosis, and you can do the two concurrently. Why waste more time? Yeah, it needs, like I say, pathway on a page. That's all it needs. You can still give your fact sheets for your condition and a fact sheet for your treatment or whatever, but I shouldn't, as a patient, have to look through 50 to 200 page, you know, NHS England and NICE guideline documents to find out what I should be entitled to and when. You know, that's bollocks. That it shouldn't be gate kept and made so difficult for the patient. And us and the doctors are on the same side, but unfortunately, when it's set up like it is currently, it makes patients think like you're fighting against each other, but they don't realise that the doctor is completely restricted because of his CCG's limit, and people don't know this very widely. I know you well-informed people in chat will, but, you know, Norfolk CCG, or it's Norfolk and Waveney, we might permit more patients to be on biologics than another CCG. So then it turns into a bit of a postcode thing. So if people were more transparent about that stuff, that you have to... So back, it might have changed since, but back in my day when I got onto biologics, you had to have failed on, you know, at least 2 DMARDs, and mine was methotrexate and another previous, and you had to have active disease on Imogen in 2 or more or 3 or more joints. It was 2 or 3, I can't remember which. And that last bit was the real issue for me, because ever since I've had arthritis as a kid, I've never shown on x-rays. I don't even know why they use x-rays for Imogen of arthritis, because all it does is show damage. It doesn't show inflammation. But the amount of times people would say, oh, we'll do an x-ray of your knee. Oh, it's clear. Well, of course it's bloody clear, because I'm 15 years old. Why would I have any damage in my knee after maybe 2 or 3 years of arthritis in it? It's ultrasounds that shows inflammation or active inflammation, active disease. So that used to cheese me off, and I finally talked them into, when I got some weird lumps come up on my hand, which we now know is a big part of psoriatic disease. I got some like little, I can only describe them as like nodules, I don't know what the proper word would be. Finally got them to do that, and they found inflammation in my feet and inflammation in my hands, and then I suddenly got biologics. But literally for years up until that point, oh, your blood test clear. My blood tests have always been clear. Like, if my white blood cell count is above 2, something's wrong. My immune system just is numb, I think, after the years of nuking it with various things. Yeah, they finally do an ultrasound. Oh yeah, you got lots going on. Well, there we go then. But I was like a guy playing hockey and running and cycling, and, you know, when I could. So why would there be why would there be damage, long-term damage shown on x-rays? But that's all they went to. It just annoyed the hell out of me. But again, no one explains that to you. So it feels like, from a patient point of view, that you're kept in the dark intentionally, you know, and I don't think that is people's intention, but it is how it is perceived as a patient. I feel like I could snuffle. I feel like I could be diagnosed with psoriasis, but whenever I show a consultant the skin on my hands, I don't think I've ever had one more than a glass. To be honest, Snuffle, when I was diagnosed, I was in the room less than 10 minutes. It was something I talked about yesterday. And in 10 years, I've seen one dermatologist since, but that's because I already had JIA. So I sit under rheumatology, and nobody ever thinks to actually assign me to dermatology separately. And also, just because your skin isn't as bad as somebody else's, it doesn't invalidate whether you've got that condition or not, Snuffle. And that's the other thing that annoys me, when someone will say, oh, it's not that bad. Well, don't compare me to the last guy you just saw, or whatever you're comparing me to. Because like my psoriasis, I'll often get excluded. Again, it's another bugbear of mine. I'll get excluded from certain projects or things that I do under the whole Joel versus Arthritis banner, you know, consultancy thing, because I don't have moderate to severe psoriasis. Well, so of course I don't, because that's how modern medicine works. Take away my sulfasalazine, my Biologic, my daily moisturisers, my steroid cream, and I'll be bloody covered in it. But of course I'm not going to sit here with moderate to severe psoriasis, because I do everything as I should. I follow the rules, I take everything on time, and I know my triggers. These, you know, people that are sharing like real extreme versions of psoriasis online, either not been treated or diagnosed or whatever, or probably should ask a lot more questions about their care, because, you know, you can, if you find the right combination, you don't have to live covered in it. You know, that's medicine works. But that really annoys me, the amount of things I get excluded from because it's deemed that I don't have moderate to severe psoriasis. But that's bullshit, because take all the drugs away, and obviously I would. Like, my head would have been covered in it if you'd have seen me, I suppose, what, 10 years ago now? But I took Biologics, and a month later all my rashes were gone. And now you're not going to be able to see them on camera, I doubt. But now I just, is that slightly picking them up on screen? That's about as visible as my psoriasis. I got a lot more on my torso and other areas we're not getting out on camera. But that's as bad as my psoriasis looks now, because it's treated. and I know my triggers. There is a difference there, guys. You can be treated, but if you ignore all your personal, and they are individual to you, triggers, then things are going to go wrong. Like, I know certain thick Belgian beers don't go well with my psoriasis. I get a massively swollen fat ear, which is not a good look. I was right when I played rugby, because you could just blame it on that, but now I've got no excuse. So if I just ignored all of my triggers, it doesn't matter what treatment I'm taking, it's going to blow up. But yeah, so that frustrates me, that whole, and again, trying to say that to the people that were there for pharma companies yesterday, that everyone's different, everything's fluid, and it shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to rely on, when I finally get to see my doctor once in a blue moon, that I have something to show him, when 2 months before I was awful and it happened to go down. And that's what all the work around patient initiated care is looking at. The idea that I can say to my doctor, I need an appointment, and if my yearly checkup comes around and everything's fine, I can say give it to someone else, and that's how it should work. It shouldn't be this whole once a year, on the year, when it doesn't catch you in the middle of a stressful life event, or when you're about to get married, or you had a baby. You know, it's no coincidence that my arthritis went out of control in 2019. It wasn't just the biosimilar switch, it was because I had a baby and I got no sleep for months on end. I'm sorry, I'll try and catch up with chat and I've finished ranting. So Artemis, I'm seronegative, so I don't show up in bloods yet. Yeah, and the thing is, I don't get because I don't have RA, or the rheumatoid subtype, as we now know it's obviously psoriatic. When I was a kid, I'd be in excruciating pain in my hip and knee, and there'd be zero swelling. So you felt like, you know, I've been feeling like a fraud since I was 10. I really should get that printed on a t-shirt. you know, so that was horrible. My blood shoot nothing, my x-rays shoot nothing. My knees would get hot to touch and they'd make some weird noises. But they'd never like blow up like you traditionally expect with rheumatoid arthritis. Because with psoriatic disease, we tend to blow up on our hands and our feet. And my feet are not pleasant. But, you know, so you get the knobbly fingers or the sort of toenails falling off. But the amount of doctors that saw me that were looking for RA type symptoms when I never had RA, it's frustrating. Yeah, and I agree with Lou, Snuffle, trust your gut. And if you ever need me, Snuffle, before an appointment to give you some one-liners to use, I would absolutely happily do that for you. Because it isn't easy. Again, another thing I talked about yesterday, not everyone can advocate for themselves, and I couldn't for a lot of years. Thank you, Amy. Amy's our resident OT in chat, who's always looking after me, so thank you. I will stretch. I don't stretch properly. I don't stretch like pain management taught me with my whole 15-minute snack and movement breaks, but then that'd be quite boring for you guys on stream if I did all of that. Maybe we grow to a size where we can do that and the audience joins in. Who knows? Hey, Snuffle, I'm dreaming big now. Yeah, imagine that, where every half an hour a little timer goes off and we all do our movement breaks. I hope you're getting on with your work right, Amy. I thought of you a lot last week because I was really struggling writing my speech. So I had a migraine since download. And it was constant. It was literally constant. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. When I got a slight break on Thursday, and that's where I had to just quickly go and start typing. But I think it was sunlight. Again, you know, I've been a hobbit the last 2 years, so to go and spend sort of 12 hours outdoors at a festival, I'm pretty sure that's what caused it. And I was starting to really panic. Like, I couldn't riff my story, but some of the stuff I wanted to say felt too important to rely on me getting it out word perfect. And also, if anyone who's had migraines, and since I found with COVID this year, I have no memory anymore. Everything I have to do is lists. Like, even like tomorrow, I've got a couple of people to get back to via email, and I've had to write a list, even though they're sitting in my inbox unread, because if not, I won't even think to look at my bloody inbox. And it is that, it's crippling, you know. It's like migraine's like an explosion going on in your brain, and nothing wires up properly for a little while. And I'm trying to, there is some point to this story, Amy. I'm trying to find time to type, and all I can think about is you when you're like getting involved on stream, and then you're saying, but I've got to write this thing, and you go off for a half hour and then you come back. Because it's kind of how I felt. It's like every time I tried to focus in on writing my speech, I remembered all the other stuff I hadn't done for 4 days because of the bloody migraines. Yeah, no, not a problem, stuff. I know what it's like, and I've got to practice what I preach. So I've got a few. I've got plenty in the vocabulary bank. Right, let me just sort that out. I get the hotness and incredible soreness, yeah, and like I can relate to what it must feel like for you guys in your knees. I don't get it so much in my knees now, but when I get it in my fingers, it's like it's like I've trapped my finger in a door and it just throbs and throbs and throbs and throbs, and that's the best way I can kind of explain it. Being protective is harder. It's hard for me at the minute because everything's sort of kicking off a little bit, like with my advocacy stuff. And like I said before on this channel, I'm not in the best of health at the minute, sort of more mentally than physically. But it's also that nagging feeling like it's now or never, and I've got to make the most of every opportunity. Is it no rain? Oh, at least that saves me a job. Oh, it is here as well. Oh, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's my eyes. That'll save me going out and watering the veg, I suppose. Yeah, I bloody love a list. My wife was like the queen of lists. She writes a list for a list. Like, it's the most obscene, ineffective, inefficient way to work. But say, even just for going shopping, we'll write a shopping list. She she then has to write it out again, all neat, only for her to go bloody shopping and not actually look at the list and forget half of the stuff. But it's just like writing lists of the same list. That I draw the limit at there, but I do like a list. She'll pop up in a minute and chat. I expect if she's listening. So what part of the world are you guys in? I know where Artemis is. But yeah, no, it got dark earlier, about 5 o'clock. I got the washing in, but the sky's bruised colour at the minute. Bruised. Yeah, but for those of you in Discord, you might have to tolerate the other half a little bit more because she's quite keen on this. I don't think she'd be on camera or anything like that. But long story short, with all of the gear I've had to buy for the stream, it has meant that I've had a fairly decent gaming laptop to say hand me down. That sounds horrendous, doesn't it? It's just that she doesn't want for anything. She's like one of these people that just literally, she's happy with a £20 and a trip to Primark sort of thing. And but now she's got a decent laptop. She was saying about she'd really like to get back into WoW, especially now Dylan's not at that age where he doesn't really wake up. Sacred will know if I don't think he's in chat, but when we used to play WoW before a couple of years ago, always one of us would have to go in because Dylan would wake between 7 and 10, and that was just a bit of a pain in the arse. But now he's older and she's now changed jobs, so she's not working really late and she gets like more office hours, I suppose. So yeah, we'll and now the other thing, as I said on a previous stream, before I could only stream on the nights when she was here to deal with Dylan, but now she's finishing every day at 5 rather than 8. It means I can stream an extra night. So we're definitely going to be doing an off-topic stream. So doing a WoW one with her partied in might be an idea. That's one of the ideas we've got anyway. So we'll still do the Ifber Island on a Tuesday. We'll still do this popular one on a Sunday night. And I think this is the bread and butter, this Sunday night stream. And if it continues to grow, we'll look to do more of that. But it would be good to have a completely off-topic gaming stream during the week where you guys can just hang out, and if you want to talk about chronic illness stuff, you can. If not, you can just talk about other stuff, and it just creates that space. Because like I said, ultimately that's the goal of the channel, to keep creating a space where people with the same conditions and struggles and questions and issues can just hang out, you know, no pressure, and share what you want to share. I'm fed up with the Midlands, Amy. I've been there twice in a week now. Obviously, I was at Castle Donington on Sunday and Birmingham Friday and Saturday. I know, I didn't realise that part of the world. I should have started walking, you know, I'm from Norfolk, so I feel like everyone, you know, I'm used to everyone knowing each other. I'd just start walking around Birmingham, Bullring or something. Anyone know where there's an OT doing placement? Shows you how small a place Norfolk is, in that one of the reps who come up to collar me after my talk yesterday was then off to go out with a mate who had played hockey with people I knew, and yeah. Just anything that happens in Norfolk, we can link to someone within about 2 degrees. Yeah, so with the Ifber Island one, the idea is that we just creating a platform to start conversations. But I think if I do a sort of dedicated gaming stream, it'll be fairly off topic. Like if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves about them things, I might chip in with the odd thing, but if not, it'll be more of a social. So that is exactly, Lou, what I tried to do in the early days, and it didn't really work. It's a bit hard to raise awareness and promote patient involvement when you're cutting the heads off things. It didn't really fit. So I think the idea of it is obviously we've got a fairly well established recipe now, haven't we, where we do the Ifber Island thing, and like I say, that is a project that I'm paid to do for them, so that's always going to live there on a Tuesday night. And then the chronic, what we're doing here tonight was my original idea, if that makes sense, of just a chat show. We get guests in and the community just sort of to talk about these issues. But I think if I introduce a dedicated gaming stream, then it'll be, if you guys want to talk about all the arthritis, chronic illness stuff in chat, knock yourselves out and I'll chip in. But I think it's more just to create, it's another place for me to show up, because unlike Twitter and Instagram and everything, if you're not online on Twitch, nobody finds you. I've probably had about 4 or 5 followers maybe from when I've been offline. So, you know, on Twitter you might be scrolling away and you see one of my old tweets or whatever, and I might follow this guy. That does not happen on Twitch at all. It's all about the hours you put in, and even though I'm streaming sort of 6-7 hours a week, we're clearly, you know, I think I've probably doing this for 10 years before we got to the numbers we needed to make a difference. So yeah, that's the idea of me just doing a dedicated one, because if somebody swings by and they just happen to have that condition, or somebody in their family does, or they just like that we're a supportive place and you guys all know each other and welcome, and then they might stick around and hit the follow button. That's the idea, because ultimately this isn't just, primarily it's a space for you guys to build a community around those conditions and a support network. But if we can educate people along the way, then brilliant. That's like on my Facebook page. I got, I think, 800 followers on my Facebook page. Probably about 200-300 of them have got no involvement with arthritis, but they still kick around and like and ask questions, and feel like you guys have seen Selby do on the channel. So we have to always constantly try and be welcoming for people that just got a healthy interest. Retro SNES, I love the SNES. Donkey Kong, one of the greatest games ever made. If I could have one, like, that'd be my desert island game, I think. If I could take Donkey Kong 1 and 2, I'd be happy. Otherwise, just the latest Football Manager, because I can just find a million ways to play that and kill hours. Yeah, no worry, Amy. Keep slogging on. But I tell you what, guys, oh, hang on, before I go on that, we need to ask more about that, Lou. My dad lived on the Donkey Kong. That is awesome. What a great little anecdote. That's just the music as well. I just spent way too many hours in my bedroom as a teenager playing that. You got to remember, back in my day as a kid with arthritis, there weren't a lot of school. Like, literally, if I had any time in a wheelchair, I couldn't go to school because I couldn't accommodate a kid in a wheelchair, which is mad thinking about it now in 2022. But in the 90s, that's how it was. Yeah, thank you, Amy. That is a very good point, because I tend to be very tunnel visioned on the patient. But that, like I said yesterday, the real eye opener, and like literally made me a little bit teary at times, the amount of medical professionals there are out there that are thinking of us 100%. You know, like I say, these patient initiated appointments, and the researchers, like so many lovely researchers. I had no time to talk to them for more than like 10 minutes, because some of them I could have spent an entire day talking to them. So I'm going to be hunting them down on social media and trying to get them to come on here at some point, because they're just like, they've got hearts of gold and they're doing all this stuff probably for a lot of time for little money, and but their empathy and compassion for our situation just blew me away. And that's just something that doesn't come across as a patient unless you go to these things and talk to these people, which is why I'm sort of saying I need to start trying to find a sponsor for you, Lara, and you know, see if I can get to the next BSR conference, because the conversations I had, they were all far too short, with researchers and doctors and, you know, dermatology nurses. Every single one of them, I just come away with like, oh, I should have asked them this, should have asked them that, and it was so overwhelmingly positive. Like in my mind, and we all know how I think sometimes, it's like Captain Negative, but in my mind, I was going to talk about these issues and piss people off. That was what I was worried about, and being an eternal worrier, you know, I worried a lot about that. It's the same as that I knew there was going to be pharmaceutical representatives, and I'm basically talking about don't make us a tick box exercise. It's insulting if you bring us along at the end because we can't change anything. And I come off stage and I was swamped, and by all these people I was most worried about. So it shows that everyone's thinking the same. I just need to get to more of these things to have those conversations and make those connections. So yeah, you're spot on, Amy, and keep reminding me that, because I forget that there might be people in them professions or researchers or people at charities who just jump on Twitch in their spare time. And unfortunately, like I say, that is the nature of Twitch. If I'm not online, they're not going to find me. So now I need to really try and double down on this, which is difficult for me because, as you regulars will know, I have a lot of imposter syndrome, and that 10 minutes before I go live is probably the highest chance of me canning a stream. It just is. And I know I'm not the only streamer that says that, but I just build up in my head so much of it, like reasons I can't do it. If I'm in a lot of pain, and obviously there are physical things and mental health issues with me that can make that an easier decision, but trying to rule out what's the anxiety in me and what's the actual fact of why I can't. So I've really got to try and push now. So yeah, just doing a dedicated gaming stream where, I don't know, people happen to look, oh, his name's Joel vs Arthritis, and go from there. So you might have noticed on my socials I've been dropping the Joel vs Arthritis. It's still my username, but I've been dropping it in the title because I don't want to be two things. I don't want to be, often people assume I only work with versus arthritis, which couldn't be further from the truth. And obviously now I'm starting to go down that consultant sort of route with some of these things. I don't want to be pigeonholed. And also, brace yourself, especially Snuffle. I actually feel like I've earned the right to use my own name now and not have to brand everything. So, you know, I share so much of my story and I'm so open and honest about it. Why wouldn't I just say Joel Nelson? You know, the Joel vs Arthritis thing helped in the early days when nobody knew, you know, that I existed, and they still don't to a certain degree. But you know what I mean? When you start up a Facebook page or an Instagram account with 0 followers, it kind of helps to have arthritis in the name. But I'm now starting to use Joel Nelson everywhere, but I'll keep it on Twitch for that sort of reason, because it helps pique people's interest, maybe. Sorry, Lou, I left you waiting a long time there. He was lodged with a family whose son is one of the creators. Sorry how it came up, but it's fascinating. Alright, no worries, I'll pick up for you at some point. It's only a matter of time, Lou, before we're in the same room anyway. Especially after yesterday. It's made me really value the, you know, because the easy option would have been for me to join via Zoom, and I could have done my talk with the comfort of having my script on another screen, and nobody could see from here below. But I'm so glad I went in person, because like I say, to have those conversations was just awesome. But I owe a lot of thanks to some of you guys for sort of getting me to that point. I tried to verbalise it yesterday, but I was a little bit overwhelmed when I done my social media post, because that whole, I don't know, I come off stage and to have people leaving their tables to come and shake my hands and then queuing up to ask me if I'd work certain things or get involved in certain things in the tea break, and that just blew me away. Like, being my worst critic and being like a serial worrier, in my head I didn't really have anything. I was doubting my ability to add any value, so that was awesome. I don't actually exist. You're just a glitch in the Matrix, Lou. Well, for all you contribute in our conversations, I'll happily accept you as an android, if that's the same. Honestly, same. What bit's that? Sorry, Snuffle, I've got lost in my own chat now. Oh, okay. In a weird way, Snuffle, don't take this wrong way, I find that easier to believe. Just because of the random stories without context. That could very much be computer generated. I'm going to the woods. I found a computer in the woods. I found a van in the woods. Just I killed Spider. Yeah, you've been rumbled. Plus, I'm pretty sure when I checked you out on Twitch, you don't have a webcam on either. So this is all starting to, you know, add up. Snuffle RNG. Yeah, I would say that was the big takeaway from yesterday, guys. The fact that everyone seems to be getting on the same page now. And the job I've got, and it was one of the things I said in my talk, is that it's a two-way thing. So I've got to also remind patients of that the medical professionals are not the enemy and that they're under their constraints and their hands are tied in certain areas. I think they could do better, some of them, at communicating that stuff, you know. Providing my appointment doesn't get changed in August, I haven't seen or heard from my doctor in over 700 days. Doesn't matter what constraints you're under from funding and CCGs, that shit doesn't feel acceptable. But there are when it comes to treatments and some of the access stuff and the delays, it's just completely out of their hands. And it's important when people dive in my DMs ranting and raving about that I point that out, because we've come a long way, I think, to get people at the same table and have those conversations. So we've got to also make sure that we don't lose sight of other people's barriers as well.
When everyone has gone and we are on our own, till then I follow roads that never take me home. But if you find me there, oh, I'll show you.
And I was absolutely chuffed when Dylan appeared on the final slide of the keynote speakers. That was so sweet. And I never met her before until yesterday. She's lovely. Again, only got like 5 minutes at the end to say hello, but I really need to have more conversation with that was Dr. Satfield Mahill. So basically on the work that So Protect and that been doing during the pandemic. So the impact of COVID on the high risk and people with psoriatic disease, and the vaccine of efficacy on people like us, and yeah, that was just really cool. She's done like a thank you to the patients page at the end. There was a lot of familiar faces on there, but she used the me and Dylan on the beach photo from a couple of years ago, which I thought was really sweet. And no need to be don't worry about being negative, Lou. We're here for the good and the bad. We don't get to talk about the good very often, so this week's a bit of a novelty. Yeah, so there's no official study on it yet that I know of, but there's definitely an issue with people having more flares post-infection. I'm in that bracket, and I went to my GP and they sort of said they're seeing it themselves. Obviously it's all sort of hearsay personal experience at this moment in time, and I think until we see any data on that, it's going to carry on that way. But the way they explained it to me, and again, for anyone who's new here, I'm not medically trained, I'm just a patient raising awareness, sharing experiences and trying to promote the patient voice. The way they explained it is, you take someone like me, I haven't even had my spring booster yet, which would have been my 5th vaccine, but I've had 4 jabs. So I had my 3 primaries and 1 booster in end of January, then in February I got COVID. Then when I had COVID, I went into hospital and had the monoclonal antibodies. So I've had all this stuff thrown at my immune system, telling it to produce antibodies. At the same time, I'm injecting Humira, which is telling my body to not overreact from an immune system point of view. And it isn't just the biologic injection, there's other things I take that play a similar role on a different level. So you've got this weird state where your body has been given all of this stuff to initiate an immune response for a group of people with autoimmune conditions that are taking drugs to suppress their immune system. And the way she described it to me, it's like your body remains in a high state of alert. It's like your immune system's been turned back on with COVID, and especially if you had the monoclonal antibodies, because monoclonal antibodies is the same sort of science as what Biologics is. making those changes at that sort of T cell and other levels. And yeah, that's how she explained it to me, Lou, that your body remains in a high sense of alert from an immune system point of view, so then you get lots of flares. And I've seen it. My skin, my psoriasis has been worse in the last 6 months than it has been in a long while, and that is since I got COVID. I haven't read up too much about what's going on with the new variants. I know obviously numbers are spiking in this country, but they will. You know, nobody even has to bloody isolate. I went to download on Sunday. I could have been standing next to 6 people with COVID who knew they had COVID, and there's nothing telling them they have to stay at home. So I don't read too much into the numbers, because the fact that there are no rules anymore, they're going to rock it. And the heat will suppress it maybe a little bit as people spend more time outdoors. The bit that worries me is what happens in October to November time, when everyone starts coming indoors and shutting windows. And if there's still no rules, then we've got a problem. Yeah, the monoclonal stuff's amazing. So me and my wife was like a really good little study of how it works with people that are immune suppressed and people who don't. So she tested positive a day or two before me. Inevitably gave it to me at some point before that, but she felt tired. She had that whole post-COVID fatigue thing, but all her symptoms, sore throat, headache, fever and everything, she never even got a fever, I don't think. Hers went after say like 4 days, and after a week, even though I'd had the antibodies, I still felt a bit rough. But literally 3 days after I was really unwell of having the antibodies, it just dropped off a cliff. So there was one day I'd done a video on Facebook where I got inundated with mates messaging me saying, "Go to hospital, mate." Like, because I was like really struggling. And for those of you who will know, but there will be some people who are just passing by in chat who don't. If you're on Biologics, it masks a fever in some people, and it absolutely does in me. So a lot of the time my body temperature is about 35, 36. So if I get anything around 37 and above, that is a fever in me. I feel like I've got a fever. I feel like crap. I get the whole, shakes and headache and everything that you would get with a sort of 38, 39 degree fever. But for me, that happens at 37. And even with that history of having a low fever, I still hit 38 degrees, which is unheard of, like literally unheard of for me. And that, on my scale, that would be like me having a 40 degree temperature, and explained why I felt so horrendous. And my voice was like, it was like gargling glass. It was horrible. I'm a little bit worried over this next week, because those of you that follow the channel and what I do will know that I've done a big push this last week, so my wife's been a big part of that. I kind of knew I was not going to arrive at the Psoriasis Association conference unless I put some effort in to get me out of the house again. So we obviously went on our little holiday the other week. What had it been 2 weeks ago now? And I was only at a local holiday park at the coast, but just to get me out around other people. Clearly the window for us getting COVID for that seems to have passed, so we survived that one. Then we went to download, which is outside, but still like 100,000 people, and you're going in and out of portaloos and things like that. I would have thought I'd have felt the effects of that by now if I got anything there. So the Psoriasis conference is like the last thing on my COVID risk list. And how many people shook my hand yesterday? It'll be amazing if I don't. But I'll be interested to see, because I've not been called forward for my 5th vaccine, or what they called here in the UK the spring booster. I was due it in May. I know they started rolling them out in March, but because I had my 4th one end of January, especially like 3 months, so what, end of February, end of March, end of April. So yeah, May I was due it, and we're now in June. I still haven't been called forward for it yet, so I'll probably give my GP a nudge, because I'm due my 5th vaccine. But if I get through these last 2 weeks without getting COVID, it'll be a bloody miracle. I'll say there's nothing to make people stay at home, even if they know they've got it. Right guys, is there anything else anyone wants to know from yesterday's conference, or anything along those lines? Oh, and also I need creative ideas over on Discord for the regulars, and anyone can join the Discord, by the way, guys. You don't even have to be a follower. Ideally, if you follow us, that'd be great, because it helps support the channel and helps more people find us, and you get notifications when I go live. But unlike other Discords, you don't have to be a subscriber or invited or anything like that. It's a completely open book, providing you follow the same rules as the channel. Yeah, head over there to talk to all this lovely bunch during the week. But yeah, for those that are involved in Discord, I'd like some suggestions about what we use on the spinny wheel for non-competitions, just as part of daily streams, just for fun, particularly on the gaming stream. So have a thought about that, bit of a think. And sorry, I've got a lot of buttons undone here. I forgot to open my window before I went live, so it's getting awfully hot in here with streaming equipment and headphones on. Yeah, I like the spinny wheel too, Snuffle. I want it to be a feature on the stream, but I can't afford to give Pain Company t-shirts out every stream. I'd be bankrupt. And for anyone who's interested in what we do with the Pain Company, links there in chat. But yeah, I'd like just to be a bit more interactive, even if that's just something silly. Or, you know, we play Guess What Snuffle Finds in the Woods. Or, I don't know, but just any ideas that we could use the spinny wheel for, that would be good. Oh, for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, it looks like that. Because, you know, I'm getting that professional with streaming now that I can bring things up on screen. Isn't that amazing? But yeah, obviously this was for a competition and an event, but it'd be good to get some other things on there for a bit of fun. Or it could be questions for Snuffle to try and test this Android theory. Yeah, no worries, Lou. Thanks for your contribution tonight. Thank you for getting involved as always. And I'm not going to be on much longer anyway, because yeah, it's been a long weekend for me, so I didn't intend to do a full-blown one tonight. But yeah, really appreciate you dropping by and all your contributions in chat. Cheers, mate. What could we find in the woods with Snuffle? For anyone that's new to the stream or just stopped by, Snuffle's a long-term, well, the original, I think, probably subscriber of the channel. But for some reason, every time we're live, they go for a walk in the woods, which I don't know whether to take offence at that or be amazed that some would still keep us going on their data. But yeah, so if you hear us joking about trips to the woods, that's where we're going with that one. They found a shrine once and we all got a little bit worried for their... Well, it's what they called a shrine. It could have been somebody else's bad art, I suppose. We all got a little bit worried for their safety because it felt like something out of the Blair Witch Project that they shouldn't have been visiting regularly. I don't think you should, Snuffle. I don't think you should. Watch a few films like, I don't know, where they do that sort of thing and see how that works out. Beetlejuice is a good example. What else? Where you build something and you just... Stranger Things. Anyone watch Stranger Things? Then that's another good example of why you shouldn't let this stuff in. What you don't realise is you've like stumbled upon some wild man who lives in the woods, and that's like his wood pile that you keep upsetting, disturbing. Last song was a bit Eurovision. I'm more into my heavy music, but it's hard to find something to play in the background that isn't distracting in that genre or that sort of style. There's a small wooden hut in the woods. It with the flag of South Africa, but it's mostly gone now. Again, there's a lot of questions there, isn't there? Is it like Jacob's hut in Lost? I don't know if you're familiar with Lost. I'm getting them sort of vibes. That's why I'm advising you to maybe not dig too deep with that Snuffle. Do you have an appointment lined up, by the way, slightly off subject? Or is it a wait and see game with your issues at the minute? Now, is it actively being treated, or are you still sort of knocking on the door trying to get answers at the minute? Okay, cool. That's positive then. Hold on to that. That's half of the battle at the moment, to be honest. I don't know if Amy's still listening, but I got loads of positive feedback about the last Chronic Pain Club we did with a guest with Amy's awesome contribution. That is now up on YouTube, guys, for anyone that wants to see it. Link there in chat. Well, it's best if I just do that one. You click that Linktree link, there's a link there to YouTube. If you haven't already, go and subscribe over there, because that basically acts as the archive for this Twitch channel. All of our interviews and clips and stuff like that will sort of end up over there in time. But that'll be coming out as a podcast over the next week for June. So keep your ears pinned for that. But anywhere you listen to your podcast, hit Joel, search for Joel versus Arthritis, or Joel Arthritis, it normally comes up. Yeah, subscribe for that so you get notification when the new episode drops. But then you can hear our very own Amy talking about her juvenile arthritis experience. Right, guys, I'm probably going to call it a close there. Like I say, this is always going to be a brief little overview debrief one after an exceptionally busy weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday with IFPA Island. For anyone who wants to know more about what that is, the link's there in chat. Potentially there might be a little stream tomorrow night. If you want to get involved over on Discord and share your ideas, I've put some ideas in the channel suggestion. If you want to add your own about what we do with the additional off-topic stream, then please head over there and do that. But thanks for everyone's contribution tonight. Thanks for everyone getting involved in chat, particularly at the start of the stream. That was awesome to see, especially seeing people talk to each other. Thank you to our first-time chatters. If you haven't already, please hit the follow button so you get notifications when we go live. It also helps the channel. And I will see you guys all soon. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope Monday is kind to you. Oh, Amy, you heard your name. Basically, your podcast is going to be coming out soon, or this week. Yeah, if you wherever you follow, Spotify, Apple, whatever, that'll be coming out. Not that you want to hear your own voice again, but in case you want to share it with anyone. All right, guys, enjoy your Monday as much as you can, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.